Welcome to the Sin Bin Podcast, your home for all the news, analysis, and discussion around your Bloomington Bison.
Let's drop the puck and get started.
Welcome back, guys, to episode 20 of the Sin Bin Podcast. Only a month since the last one.
We're doing better.
Yeah, actually a little under a month, so... it's still not great, but we're getting better. Yeah, definitely been a busier year for the two of us, but let's get right into it, not waste any more time, because the Bison have been playing. I'm going to go with some of the games we missed earlier, because I want to start with a good mood. So, starting from what we missed out on, I'm pretty sure the last game we covered was the win over Indy. So the next game that we filmed that on was right before the Tahoe Night Monsters game. They won 4-1. That was a really good game. I remember being there for that game, specifically that one. Solid win. I also know of Trent Swick, a Golden Knights prospect who's on the Tahoe Night Monsters, who had a pretty good game, and I remember seeing him in particular having a really good game, but the Bison still won 4-1. Goal scorers in Sungjae Lee, Brandon Yeamans, Sullivan Mack, and your captain Eddie Matsushima. Beyond that game, we head to that Saturday where they headed to Cincinnati, Ohio. Unfortunately, lost that game 2-1. Close one against Cincinnati, but that's one a little unfortunate. You kind of want to have those games against the teams that you're fighting for the playoff spot, but it was still pretty good time right after that. They then go to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and have a great Sunday the 1st as they win in the shootout 4-3, and then right after that next Friday they beat the Wings 5-2 at Kalamazoo. Now Saturday they did lose 5-2 to Kalamazoo, but 3 away games at Kalamazoo and 2 wins is really good. That's something that I like to see, especially against the Wings, who are making a comeback later this year. Not a team to just not pay attention to. They could be pushing for that playoff spot that we're going to be fighting for, so keep the Wings in mind, but that's a big weekend to get 2 of 3 over them at their house to really set yourself up well in your division. Then Sunday, they went to the Comets, and this one that I was really happy about. 5-0 win over the Fort Wayne Comets. Wow. I mean, especially who now is the leader in the division. That is a huge win over a really good team. I remember that was just one that I really was very proud of the Bison after that game.
I think that those are the type of games, especially division leaders, league leaders, like those are the type of games that will and can propel you on a run. We were talking about before the podcast. I'm blanking on the team right now, of course, but I mean they had won 24 of their last 25 games.
Kansas City Mavericks have won 24 of their last 25 games. Which, by the way, the Bison beat them in their 2-game stand. One of their games. It was at our house, but still very impressive. It's one of the last wins that team has had this year. I think that was the third to last loss that they've had this year, and that was in December. That's kind of my whole overarching belief in that is like when you have those games against those good teams, that is what is going to propel you into the playoffs when you are able to beat those good teams. Now, granted, that's assuming that you take care of business against the teams that you should beat. Yes.
Saw that last year. Setting up to be a very interesting end to the year.
We'll get to the later games.
We'll get into that.
It'll explain the current standing situation.
Those big wins against the division leaders, I think you're going to see very momentous if we make the playoffs.
Absolutely. And also just shouting out some specific players, because there's been some movement since we've last been talking. Brett Budgel gone, Kohei Sato gone. I think those two were both mentioned on the last pod, but I just wanted to make sure I got those guys on. We also, I think we released, I didn't see a message about releasing Theo Calvis, but I haven't seen him around recently.
I'd have to double check. I did see something about that.
Yeah, let me check let me look at their exact roster right now so I can get just better exact, but here, they're visit the team site and then go to their roster because I know they added Ivan Shukurov, it was his first weekend this past week, and he was all right. Personally, I was not happy about it, but because Colin Ferguson was the one who was taken out for him to be able to play, and because Sung Jae Lee has been playing well enough that they didn't want to take him out, and I actually totally agree with that assessment. Sung Jae Lee has been playing very well as of late, so I'm totally good with the situation of keeping him in. And then they did take out Riku Ishida right after he scored a power play goal in the game, and then they struggled on the power play on this weekend. But I'm getting ahead of myself, excuse me. On to the roster specifically, I was saying some new faces. Ivan Shukurov. Chris Ortiz is likely going to be down here a little bit longer, so you're going to see more of him since the Hartford Wolfpack are currently absolutely stacked on defense. They have about 9 different defensemen, and because they just signed Travis Dermott, another near NHLer, so they're going to have a lot of people on there. They're probably not going to send one of those 9 defensemen down here, because a lot of them are either near like NHL or like very solid AHL guys, but they could send down someone like maybe Cooper Moore if they get enough defensemen. But more than that, it more means that we're not going to have any defensemen called up. The only defenseman that we will even, I'd say, have a chance of getting called up is Chris Ortiz. And even then, I'm much more happy with our defensemen of Sedov, Datama, and get Ferguson back in there, because I thought his presence was a little missed, honestly, in the games this past weekend. But I'm, once again, getting ahead of myself. I specifically wanted to mention Brad Morrison, because that was a kind of trade, basically. So Brett Budgell left for the Austrian League, if I am correct, one of the European leagues over there. And so we traded future considerations to the Allen Americans for Brad Morrison. And Brad Morrison has been, he's 29, he's been relatively consistent, or not, I don't want to say consistent, but he's put up points everywhere he's gone.
Contributor.
Exactly. He's contributed everywhere he's gone, while his consistency has been the issue, if that makes sense. So he's always contributed. It's just that he hasn't been able to find that consistency with one team where he's amazing. He did have that consistency for a little bit with the Kalamazoo Wings. That was his first team that he took out when he graduated from, when he graduated from the WHL, he went to the AHL, actually, and then played with the Fort Wayne, then with Indy, went to Reading, and then had 2 good years with the Kalamazoo Wings. A good year with the 2 different stints with the Fort Wayne Comets. One last year was last year. Again, this is just last year with the Fort Wayne Comets and Allen Americans. Only played 28 games, but was 21 points in those 28 games. So a very solid contributor. Had only 14 points in the 32 games he played with the Allen Americans, but he already has 3 goals and 3 assists in 11 games played for the Bison so far. So I think he's going to be a relatively contributor. I like the way he plays too. He's quick. He's on the puck. He's someone who likes. I feel like they haven't put him with Eddie, and I really like that they haven't, because they kind of filled a similar role on a line of that. We kind of talked about Eddie being the dog to the bone, to the puck, where he's the one that's always on it. Basically the F1, if you want to talk about more like high hockey terms, they're the F1. They're the first forechecker in. They're the first person that's on the puck in the either defensive zone or offensive zone on the forecheck. I think both of them fill that role really well and have the quickness and ability to just hound opponents for the puck. So I was really happy with the Brad Morrison addition, not only because of he's able to contribute from a production standpoint, but I like the way he plays on the puck. And I think he fits the kind of direction this team has there. So I really hope they keep Brad Morrison. I also had a nice conversation with him as well, so a little bit of bias there. But seriously, I really like his game.
If they can unlock his consistency, like I think it's.
Oh, and there. Excuse me, guys. We'll have to reset up our podcast. Buster here. Yeah, did you just knock over? Uh-huh. Little dork. Well, luckily we can. All right.
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, Buster completely threw us off. But
consistency.
Brad Morrison, yes.
Yes. I actually like the risk and reward of taking a player who you said may not be consistent, But if he can just add a little something to it, even if you're not getting it every single game, I think you're still feeling comfortable if you're Coach Barsky because you have Matsushima, because you have other guys. Those are your consistent guys. Now you just need the pieces to fill in the little cracks and the holes, and even if he's not consistent, he'll add here and there.
Well, here's the other thing that I wanted to bring up. Not even 2 years ago, so first year before the Bison, 24-25, he played for, not 24-25, 23-24. He played for the Kalamazoo Wings, 45 points in 58 games. That's a good, consistent, all-around year.
Yeah, you don't need a point per game type of guy.
And that was 2 years ago. That wasn't very long ago. And wasn't like Patrick Bykov, who we got, who had like a point per game season, but it was a one-off, and it was not. No, this guy has been consistent. He had a 49 point in 50 games with the Royals when he was with them in 21-22. So this is a guy who has consistency. Not even a long time ago. And what I really like is specifically, I talked to someone about this past Maine weekend that we'll get to, but each division kind of plays differently. Like I think
100%.
As fans, you guys have noticed that as well. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, but like for example, the Mountain Division is a lot higher scoring. Like, they're more of an offensively inclined division. That's why when we face the Grizzlies, it's still like a 4-3 game, despite the fact that they're lower in the standings. They're not as good at saving the puck or playing defense as our division, but they're better at having offensive pressure and putting the puck in the opposing net. So I think different divisions just play differently sometimes, and that can partially affect how you play against those teams. But point is, that can also affect how your players fit into their system. And I'm saying if Brad Morrison is a guy who fits into the central system of guy who played for the Kalamazoo Wings, 45 points in 58 games, then went to the Fort Wayne Comets and was relatively consistent, and struggled only this year, went in a different division in the Allen Americans, I don't know. I think maybe his game more fits a Central Division play style, and now back on a Central Division team, he's already produced back at a half a point a game level. And again, that's saying that after this Maine weekend, which we'll get to, but all I'm saying is all of the players' point totals are a little bit down right now after that Maine weekend,
Right.
lower than they should have been, because, well, again, we'll get to it.
And I think that's something that, like, when you really, really get into hockey in general, like, that's why you see, I think across any sports, but I think mainly in hockey or football, like, you see players who just say, oh, I just need a fresh start. Well, that's part of the reason is because maybe they don't fit the scheme or the type of player or the type of team that they want you to be. Like, if you are a grinded out physical type of team, you're not going to have a team full of guys who are really skillful. And, you know, I mean, you need those guys, but that's not how you play. You're going to want grinders who are going to hit people and wear you out. And I think that's the interesting part of watching these players is that if they go to a different team and they need that fresh start, you're going to find players that, yeah, they may have sucked with their previous team, but it's not because they suck. It's maybe because their style of play didn't fit with the team.
Exactly. When I look at, unironically looking back on it, when I see Patrick Bykov, I don't know where he is right now, but I'd care to bet he's probably on a Mountain Division team because the way he plays is a lot more high offense, less defensive responsibility. So I don't know. I didn't necessarily look it up, but I don't know. It's just interesting between the divisions to compare.
Little note for you guys. That's also where you get, like, if you ever heard me or Dylan mention, like, a two-way defenseman or a stay-at-home defenseman. Like, that's their play type. Like, that's their style of play. And it matters way more, I think, than people realize.
Oh, yeah.
Fitting scheme to
Absolutely.
the type of player.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, some people who might not work with one team may be a top line player on another. It really just depends on how you fit what that team is trying to do. And this is why I always say stuff like coaching in hockey matters more than people realize, because, like, if it doesn't matter, you could have Patrick Kane, but if it doesn't fit the exact system that they're trying to run, Patrick Kane was a liability defensively. He could be a he could be a terrible player on a good team, depending on the play style.
Yeah.
So it really does matter on what forecheck formation are you using? What's your defensive formations? What's your planned breakouts? Like, a lot of this stuff matters and how they fit in. Like, certain people excel at better things on breakouts, and some people excel better at zone entries. And it's really up to the coach to fit everybody cohesively.
That's the tough part.
That's
about
the hardest part about coaching is having all of these players with different abilities and different and constantly changing and trying to fit them all together in the most cohesive way.
Yeah, I think the criticisms are the weirdest part, because we as fans, like, let's face it, we love to criticize. We love to say that
because it's real easy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they should be perfect and play really well, and well, that may be true. I think some of the criticisms also you have to be careful, because you have to think about, like you said with Patrick Kane, for example, at the NHL level. Greatest American-born player probably ever to play the game. I don't think you'd get a lot of arguments about that, but people criticize the heck out of his defense. Well, guess what? He's not a defenseman, first of all, and second of all, he's on your team to score goals. That's not his role. That's not his job. So I think before you criticize people, I mean, fair criticism, I think, you can criticize them. Just think about what you're saying and think about the role on their team is all I'm saying. From the player's perspective, because I think they get a lot of criticism that isn't necessarily warranted.
I mean, the other thing that's also huge to just think about in general is you just cannot judge a player based on stats.
No.
Like, it's just... I'm guilty of doing it even right now when I'm talking about the 6 points in 11 games. And I'm trying to show that specifically to show his production. And production is something to look at.
It's point-based for sure.
It has a place. But that's the issue. It has a place. It is not the thing to look at. It is something to say, okay, well, production is important in terms of this. But, like, in the same way, like, Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time. That's not even necessarily up for debate. So if you have the argument of, okay, well, goals are the most important thing in hockey, then is Alex Ovechkin the best player of all time because he scored the most goals of all time? I would argue no. I would argue that Sidney Crosby's even better, despite the fact that both of them are, again, like some of the best players of all time in hockey. But point is, I'm saying, but Crosby doesn't have that many goals, and it's probably similar around in points. It's because you just cannot judge a player based solely upon the statistics that they provide. You can partially. You can say, oh, this player consistently, like Connor McDavid, he consistently has 150 points. It's utterly ludicrous. Yes, that is statistically worthy. It is statistically worthy to be near a point per game for your team because that means you are contributing on a consistent basis. Yeah. There are parts of statistics that do matter and stats that matter to look at, but it can't be the only part of the picture. It's the same thing that I tell to people all the time when they're using advanced statistics as the only thing to judge a player. As someone who uses Twitter occasionally, I think the user JFresh, if any other hockey nerds out there use his cards, I think it's unfortunate, but his cards have partially ruined the discourse around players online. And that's not his fault. His cards are perfectly fine. All they're supposed to do is show you the wins above replacement compared to another player in that exact same role that they're being played. The problem is it's a lot of like intricacies. Like there's a percentage by the number and it has like a blue or a red mark on it. And that is based upon how effective they're doing in their role. So like you could have a 98% in a third pairing defenseman and they're really, really, really good at a third pairing defenseman, but you put them in a first pairing role and they could be terrible.
Sure, yeah.
And then you could have someone in a first pairing role who is not equipped to be a first pairing person, but could be a really good second or third pair guy, and his card is going to be like a 38 to 25% because he's not good enough to be that number one guy, but he's being played like he is.
It's
so
like
his
putting
numbers
a jigsaw puzzle together.
Exactly. There's so many different parts to advanced statistics. I know this is a weird side tangent, but there's so many different parts to advanced statistics, and people will just post a card with the percentage by it and use that as like a Madden rating on how good they are. It infuriates me how advanced statistics has turned the community of hockey into just, this guy is good at expected zone entries. Therefore, they're the only good player. They're the only person who actually has high expected zone entries. I'm like, guys, it's just like regular statistics. They're useful. I'm not going to tell you that advanced stats are not useful. Expected goals for, heck, advanced stats for goalies may be the only effective way to actually measure their performance.
Well, you talk about statistics. I mean, from what I've heard and what I've seen at the coaches, Barsky is like a stat guru. Like, this man is like deep into the like advanced statistics.
Exactly. And as someone who likes that, and I'm sure Barsky isn't watching, but I'm saying even if he happened to be, good. Using advanced stats and regular stats are good if you use it in conjunction with everything else.
Yeah.
The most important is always going to be the eye test. The most important will always be you as the coach sitting on the bench, watching your players play, seeing who is being the most effective.
Except if you are
always going to be the highest level of judging how your players perform. Beyond stats, beyond advanced stats, any of that, watching how your players play both together and in practice, and that is going to be the most effective way to judge those players, and I'm sure that's what Barsky's already doing. But I'm saying using those advanced stats and eye test, all that in conjunction with each other is how you appropriately evaluate a player. It's not by one of any of them. Hockey is such a banana sport that so many intricate things can change on a high value that you can't grade players like it's a shell game. You're just not going to be able to do that. That's not how it works. But you can effectively figure out who's effective on your team through coaching and using statistics and advanced stats in conjunction with watching the players play to figure out who would be best suited for your team.
Except if you're Nathan McKinnon and you think that Canada should have won the gold medal game, but Jack Hughes, you're a god. I digress.
Oh yes, sorry. Quick interruption. We gotta give a huge shout out to American hero Jack Hughes and American hero Megan Keller for winning gold. Both for USA, Jack Hughes for the men in overtime and Megan Keller for the women in overtime, which, and by the way, we were talking about this before. As much as we loved the golden goal for Jack Hughes, I think the call for the Megan Keller goal was probably better. Like,
I mean, they were both epic.
No, they were both great.
Kenny Albert did a
but Kenny Albert on that,
and commentating.
And that's something that me specifically, I'm obviously a huge commentating guy. Women's hockey has deserved better commentating for a little bit. And that's nothing on necessarily the current commentators, but I'm saying they deserved a moment like that, where it's a high-profile, really good, known commentator having a legendary call for women's hockey, and that's what that was. That was a legendary call for the women's hockey gold there. So Megan Keller, Jack Hughes, both teams, congratulations. U.S. Paralympics start soon.
Yes, they do.
And U.S. has won the last 4 for gold for U.S. Paralympic hockey. So let's make it 3 for 3, guys. Let's do it.
If you've never, I'm biased. Obviously, I'm in a wheelchair. Okay, get over it. If you've never watched sled hockey, I highly suggest that you tune into the Paralympics. It is awesome. The U.S. and Canada have really good teams. Go and watch them. I promise you won't be disappointed.
I mean, if you like hockey, it's gonna be interesting. If you liked the gold medal game between the women and the men, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the exact same thing between Canada and U.S. this year. So you might have a third game to watch for Olympic gold for U.S. v Canada. So keep in tune. Keep your eye out for that. Yeah.
Shout out to also Tage Thompson. I did not know this, Dylan. I learned this after the gold medal game.
What's that?
Peoria Youth Hockey star
Peoria
Tage Thompson.
Yeah, Peoria Youth Hockey.
That.
I did. I had known that, yeah, because he was known around. I'm around the Riverman rink sometimes, and they talk about him because, I mean, yeah, he played
no
Riverman
clue.
there.
I had no clue.
No.
But shout out to him.
Tage Thompson, legend. Oh, man, I mean, what a year for him, too. He just won, he scored the golden goal for the IIHF Men's Worlds for U.S. this year, which, by the way, yeah, men won. They didn't win World Juniors this year. They would have been a three-peat, because if they did, they would have won that. They would have won Olympic gold, and they would have won IIHF men's gold, which would have been pretty crazy. But they did win men's and Olympic men's, so
arguably Olympics.
Arguably a bit more important. Yeah,
but
I would say Olympics is probably. I'd say Olympics, women, men, and Paralympics are probably the three highest. I'd say men and women probably the biggest, but just because Paralympics is not as popular as the Olympics. No shade.
It should be, though.
No
so
shade.
Y'all should watch it. I'm just saying.
There's no shade being thrown here, clearly. I mean, but I mean, I'm not. I hope I'm not.
It is kind of crazy though. Like, we're going off on. I promise we'll get back to
it's
in a second.
You're watching a podcast with two ADHD fellas. Like you're gonna go on a few tangents. It's gonna happen.
The Paralympics have gained a lot more coverage over the last 4 to 8 years, but just watch them. I promise you're not going to be disappointed.
Sled hockey in
there
particular.
Are so many cool stories. The USA team is ridiculous. I got to not practice with them, but I practiced with a couple of guys on the team. They made me look silly, and I consider myself decent at sled hockey till I played again. They're ridiculous. Yeah. Just go watch.
They're a reason they're Olympians. And
I'm not.
They're ridiculous. So, keep an eye out for that. Congratulations to men's and women's on gold in the Olympics. Finally, we can get back to the games we were covering. We went on like 3 different side tangents there.
Well,
so
it's okay because you know what? We want
the
good news, but now we have to get into the bad news.
Yeah, because we're starting to get close to the one that's not as fun. Oh, and I remember what initially went on the side tangent because I was talking about Brad Morrison, and he had 2 primary assists in that game over Fort Wayne, the 5-0 win. Primary assist to Denis and to Sullivan Mack. So, and yes, I do understand that both Sullivan Mack and Zach Karpa are up with the Wolfpack right now, so we are missing 2 guys. However, Kyle Jackson is down still, and I trust this team to be able to still produce without those 2 guys. Like they're good, but this team is good enough to be able to make it without them. Let's continue down the line as then we had a 3-game stand against Utah, the 13th, 14th, and 16th. It was a 3-5 loss, but again, it was at their arena. So 3-5 loss, unfortunate way to start, but you get them back the next game, 3-1 win. Reasonable. It's away. You're splitting. It may not be a great team, so you might want to have at least gotten to like overtime or something. But you know what? It's a solid team. It's an away split. Very solid. Totally fine. Understandable. And then you get to this weekend. And that's when it starts to hurt. Because that Monday game when there was the watch party, they won 4-3. And there you go. 2 out of 3 on the weekend. That's great. It was a bit of a rough game because we went up 3-0. And then they scored 3 in the third, and then we won in overtime. So it probably shouldn't have been in overtime in the first place, but you did get the win.
You got the
That's what's important.
Got the points.
But then you had this weekend, and talk about a momentum killer.
Put your seatbelt on for this one, people.
This one's a little bit rough. Starts on Friday, a 4-1 loss at home on college night. There was a relatively solid attendance for a Friday game, too, so it was a little unfortunate, but just couldn't get much going on their goaltender. Only scored with about a minute 33 left in the game on the power play, and the net pulled. So, just couldn't get anything past this goaltender. Like, they were trying to, but they just couldn't beat him until the very end of the game. But props to him, admittedly.
I was going to say, I would argue in that situation, like, if you lose, you can lose. The worst way to lose is when the goaltender is not on their game.
Yeah.
When you run into a hot goaltender,
that was what
nothing
Friday was.
You can do.
And they do have a very good goaltender in Arvantes. They're the Maine Mariners starting goaltender. They do have a very good starting goaltender. So, do keep that in mind. However, the next game, Mariners at Bloomington, 4-3. Kyle Jackson scored twice, and they just couldn't. They let momentum slip away early as they scored 2 quick goals, but they came back and tied it 2-2, and they had momentum after retying the game, and then they let up another one. and then another one, and everyone went, it's over.
You have got to learn how to keep momentum on your side as soon as you get it. I get it that it'll swing back and forth, but you have got to learn how to, when you get the momentum, to keep it as much on your side, because that is a game you have got to win.
Yeah. And then Sunday, it was the must win. You dropped 2 at home to one team that wasn't even that amazing, and you lost again 5-2 on Abe's birthday. You can't
be doing Abe like that, guys. Like, come on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, it's it was another rough one. They beat the goaltender when they wanted to. Like, it was. I don't know. It was pretty disheartening because I look at the build of this team right now. I look at the roster and the construction of it, and I really like this team. I do. I do really like the roster that this team, the Bison have. Even right now, with both Karpa and Mac up, I like the roster they have currently. Again, I might argue between defenseman Shukurov and Ferguson. That's just because Shukurov just came in. He does have better pedigree, admittedly. But I'm just a fan of Colin Ferguson because I thinks he does a lot of the little stuff right, even if he's a bit of a smaller guy and can be beaten by larger physical players on the puck behind the net sometimes. I think if you can pair him with a taller defenseman, I think he does the little things very well. So I still am a big Colin Ferguson guy. But I just couldn't get much going. Again, Kyle Jackson scored twice. It was the second game that he scored twice, not the other one, excuse me. But or maybe he scored twice in both. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I can check both games, but you can see that I'm at a loss for words.
It's very reminiscent of last year at the end, towards the end of the year, where we talked about we had that stretch with the Fuel and the other teams, and it just seems like, I don't know, I think of it as like the clutch gene, right? Like when you need it to count. Yes, the season's not over. Yes, we're in a playoff spot right now. But you have got to get points when you have 3 at home. Like, if it's on the road, okay, you still should at least get a point. But at home, like, you have to get points right there.
A 3-game homestand. Because before this weekend, you were, like, actually kind of, especially after beating the Comets, you were not the furthest away from them. If you did really good this weekend, you could have put yourself in a position to beat Toledo this weekend and possibly fight for one of those top playoff spots. And instead, you are now stuck in the lower tier because you have completely separated yourself from those upper tier players. And that's not because I'm trying to be mean or like rude about it, but there is now a 10-point difference while the Toledo have 2 games in hand and a 12-point difference with the Comets, who are tied with you. It's going to be ridiculously hard in 22 games to be able to make up 10 points on those teams. It's not impossible, but it's going to be really hard, and you're going to need to win a lot of your head-to-head matchups if you plan to even try and overtake one of those teams now. So now
you got to be realistic, too.
And being realistic, you're probably not overtaking any of those teams because of how good those teams are. So you're probably now stuck at best at that 3rd spot. So, yeah, that's a rough weekend. You lost a good opportunity. And now it's even more rough is the Fuel 1 point behind you, and they have 2 games in hand. In fact, they're playing as we record this podcast. They are laying the smackdown on the Kalamazoo Wings. I think they was 6-1 when we last checked. So the Wings are going to stay at 49 and 50 points, but the Fuel are going to overtake the Bison. They're going to have 2 less wins, 55. But they're going to have a game in hand, and they're going to have 1 extra point because they've had 8 overtime losses and a shootout loss, while the Bison have only had 2 and 2 respectively. So, yes, as mad as I get about the loser point,
they freaking matter.
They still matter.
They matter a lot. And I think ultimately it's going to be exactly like last year. I will say, because what did we say? There's 22 games left. 7 of them are against Iowa, I think.
That's the crazy thing. We did do we looked at the future schedule. So who the Bison play for the rest of the season. They have 1 game against the Heartlanders on Wednesday. That's one of them. But those are one of 22 games left in the season. Both home and away, there are 22 games left in the season, at least in the regular season. And 7 of those games are against the Heartlanders. 4 of those games are not in division. And yes, I'm saying only 4 of those 22 games are not within your own division. So yeah, this is where it matters. We talked about last year when games start to matter. This is the switch.
18 divisional games, 7 of them against the Heartlanders.
18 divisional games, and 7 of them are against the bottom team in the division. You want to prove that you belong in the top 3? I think you belong in the top 3. I think you're probably the 3rd best team. I think it's pretty reasonable because you have more wins than the Fuel do. Even after they're overtaking you, you're still going to have more wins. So I actually do still think you're the better team than the Fuel. I still think you're the 3rd best team in this division. Prove it. You need to beat the Heartlanders at least a good amount of those times because they are the bottom team in the division. I know they've gotten better since the beginning of the year. I understand that. You need to beat them still. It's like that's the bottom team in the division. That was our rival last year and maybe still this year. You got to be able to beat that team, and you have to be able to have competitive games against any game against the Fuel, Wings, or Cyclones, because those teams right now all have the same amount of wins other than the Fuel, who just got 1 more, because right now it's 22, 22, and 22 between those 3. So these are going to be the teams you're going to be against for the playoff spot. These last 22 games, it's mainly against those teams or the top 2 in the division or those 4 divisional games. The only 4 divisional games or non-divisional games left are 1 against the Utah Grizzlies and 3 against the Greenville Swamp Rabbits at the very end of the year. Both of those teams are not necessarily very good. So, when you look at your schedule for the rest of the year, the main hard games you have, like really hard opponents, are the Walleye and Comets, which is good because that's going to be practice for the playoffs. Because you're going to be facing one of those 2 teams in the playoffs if you make it.
Right.
So that's a good practice. So then every game will either be a practice playoff game or a must-win to get into the playoffs. Because you're going to be either facing those guys or relatively bad teams from either out of your division or in your division. So 22 games left. I want to see a dominant team here.
You have got to go. I don't even think you're going to make it if you go 500.
If you go 500, probably not.
You have got to go at least, probably 4 games above 500.
I don't even necessarily think that. I think only a couple games over could handle it. I think it could. But it's also going to be about when you win. That's going to be huge, too.
Mind you, Cincinnati, like you said, 47 points. Bloomington has 54 right now. And you might say, 7 points, that's sounds like a pretty good lead. That can change very quickly.
Not only does Cincinnati have 2 games in hand, so if they win both of those games, it's then a 3-point difference. There's not that many games left in the season. Before you know it, you have another weekend, like the Maine weekend, and suddenly what happens is exactly what happened last year when you're in a playoff spot for the whole year, and then suddenly, the very end of the year, you're at the bottom of the division, despite being good for most of the year. You got to be able to finish off strong, and that's what the Bison got to do here.
Think about it. If they go 0-3, let's say they go 0-3 in a weekend again, and the Cyclones go 3-0. That's 6 points right there.
No, that's a 12-point differential. That's a 12-point differential.
Yeah, bad math. I'm not a math major.
So, exactly, that's a 12-point swing.
But if you go 0-3, you get 0 points. They go 3-0. That's 2 points per game.
It's a 12-point swing, yeah.
So, you basically dig yourself in a grave if you do that again.
Yeah.
So
And especially
if you're going to lose, get it to overtime.
With who you're playing too. Like, I mean, obviously you don't want to lose any of these games, but if you have to, they've got to be against the Walleye and the Comets, and you're out of one. Like out of
let the top 2 teams duke it out for the top spot.
Exactly.
If you're gonna lose to them.
I'm saying specifically, the games that are must wins are the Fuel, the Wings, and the Cyclones.
Yep.
Every single one of those 3 is now a must win, because the Heartlanders, as much as we should really be winning most, if not all of those games. If we drop 1 or 2 of those, it's gonna be okay. The Heartlanders aren't gonna come back and make the playoffs, but I'm saying the Fuel, March 10th. That's their Education Day game. That should be absolutely packed. I wonder.
Send those kids home crying.
Like, seriously?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Do not send those kids home crying.
Yeah, send the kids home happy with a W over the Indy Fuel. No, I'd love to see it. That's the Fuel, and then the 13th, you're at home against the Wings. That's the good thing. A lot of these games against those opponents, there is one that's in Ohio against Cincy, but most of them are against like the Fuel and Kalamazoo. Those are all at home. You have 2 more games against Kalamazoo. They're both at home. 2 more games against Indy, both at home. Only 1 more game against Cincinnati, but it's away. But I would say that's a really big game too.
You know what that tells me, Dylan?
What's that?
That means that yes, they have to do their part and win the game. We got to do our part and show up to the games. Show up to the home games. They need you. And
I also want to give a shout out, because this was a really rough weekend, but to those that were there, I want to shout out because it was packed this weekend. Like, we want to talk about, like, we really want Bloomington to buy in and to really care about the Bison like we do, because we know that, like, the people who watch this podcast is not the person we're talking about. If you're watching this podcast, you're already most likely like a diehard fan and you want to just learn more about the Bison. It's likely not you we're talking about. We're talking about the average Bloomington resident who says, we're a hockey town, and then goes to, like, maybe 1 game every 2 years. Like, I think I want this place to be a hockey town. I absolutely do. Then go support them. Like, we're in terms of the ECHL, we're relatively bottom of the barrel in terms of league attendance. And I'm not saying that's necessarily going to change. It's not even necessarily the city's fault. There's a lot of different reasons. There's the fact that it's expensive, and part of that's the team, but part of that's just the fact that 50% of the world's wealth is owned by 300 people right now. So, like, maybe people don't have that much money. There's a lot of different issues, and we totally understand. We just, like, we want people to care and buy in, and
that's the whole reason why we even do this.
Exactly. Like, again, we know most of the people who are watching this are already those people that are buying in, and we thank you. And again, I want to specifically give a shout out to people. If you were there this weekend, actually, that should be our question of the day. Were you there this weekend for one of those games? Because there was so many. I'm guaranteeing most of them are going to say yes, because there was over 4,000 people there on Saturday. And again, 4,000 for the ECHL isn't necessarily that impressive, but for Grossinger,
for us,
that's really not. It was a rockin' atmosphere in there, and that Saturday, the best game where there was 4,000, that was the game that it was really close. Like, I'm not saying that necessarily that's the reason, but
the crowds make a difference.
They do. Crowds will make a difference on the team. We talked about it with Eddie when he was on the podcast. He said that he feeds off the crowd. Absolutely, that they love being able to play in front of the fans. So, like, absolutely, we want this place to be a hockey town too. We just like it when everyone can really buy in, and I feel like I really want to know from our audience on who was there this weekend, because it was so packed, and I really just wish there was a better weekend to be so packed. Like, I want to just say, I want to have, like, a message to the people that came, like, please come back. I promise we are a good team. Like, we are, like, a pretty darn good team. We've just never faced a team from Maine before. This is the furthest a team has ever traveled to play the Bison ever. So, like, this is hockey history in this area. This is as farthest any team has ever traveled to come play here. All right? So, already history being made. We get it. We just want to know who is there because we want to give you your props. Because
and keep showing up.
Because
they're gonna
it was,
need us.
I just had such a fun time this weekend, even with the losses. And you saw how upset I was about those losses. It's not like I'm taking it lightly. This team matters a lot to me. But I mean, clearly. But it's, I don't know. It filled me a lot of pride, and I was really glad that they were able to make Saturday a good game too, because those fans deserved it. It was rocking on Saturday,
and I think it's more about,
if we can get that atmosphere more, the team's only going to do better.
The atmosphere of the games as well. Like, that's why we do this podcast, because we want to help the team. We want to, get their exposure out there, but also for those diehard hockey fans, we get it. You're not all going to be diehard hockey fans. Absolutely. That's okay. But the fact that you can experience it and just go and have fun, they're not going to win every game. If they won every game, then darn it, just give them the Kelly Cup already. But they're not going to do that. But the experience of going to the game, feeling the crowd, watching, these guys are ECHL players. They are no slouches. Like, the skill level is there. It's fun, even if you don't understand it. But partly, I think that's what our job is. Like, we're hockey fans. We're here to teach you guys if you're new to the sport. But they need you, and this is the most critical part of the season. So keep doing what you're doing and supporting them, because it will make a difference.
So exactly what Mike said. What you did this past weekend, do that again. It was amazing. We're not even necessarily asking for more. This past weekend was great. The energy was great. The crowd fed off of it. I'm saying if we have that kind of crowd for a game where, like, I don't know, remember like last year's Kalamazoo game? Like, I'm imagining like that kind of crowd for that kind of game would be an atmosphere you would never want to miss.
Oh my gosh.
So, like, I don't know. I'm just really excited about this team, and I feel like it was disappointing because I know this team is better than how they played this past weekend. I know they are.
Oh, I'm sure they.
I know they are.
They felt
they're
that
better
in the locker
defensively. I think I would care to guess this is probably the first weekend in Dryden McKay's entire history he's let in 4+ goals in back-to-back games ever. I wouldn't be surprised if that's an ever stat because of who Dryden McKay is. So, it was an off weekend, and we are upset. Clearly, we're a bit upset about it, but it's not like the season's over. Got 22 games, plenty of hockey left to be played, and we believe in the Bison. We just want them to prove what we already know, in that they're a playoff team, they're good, and they could make. And here's the thing: we talk about it all last year. Once you're in the dance, anything can happen, and you've seen how we've played against Fort Wayne and Toledo. We've not been bad against either team this year. Like last year, I remember facing Toledo was I always felt awful. It felt like that because we just knew it was going to be 90% a loss, or like maybe if they were like really good effort that night, they could come out with a win, even when it was at home. And when you traveled to Toledo, forget about it.
Good luck.
Forget about it. This year, it's like a split. Whenever they play, it's up in the air whether they're going to win or not. And that is huge because once you get playoff time, up in the air whether you win or not, it's a 7-game series. If it's up in the air whether you win or not, you could sneak a 4-2 or 4-3 series win out there. And then suddenly, you're past the first round. You've got momentum. And once you've got momentum, nothing else matters. So it really is just whoever catches fire at the right time in the playoffs. So all you need is a spot in the dance. And I want the Bison to get that spot.
Speaking of scheduling, I was thinking about this earlier, and I think this is a perfect time to bring it up. I know for a fact the league does it this way on purpose for the excitement aspect. But I really do love it that they schedule this stretch of divisional games at the end of the year. Like, it is absolutely on purpose, and
Genius.
as they should schedule it on purpose. But this is what, as a hockey fan or getting into hockey, this is what you should live for. Because, yes, is it going to be heartbreaking? God forbid if they don't make the playoffs and they miss by 1 point. Of course it's going to be heartbreaking. That's going to suck. But you know what? At least we're going to have a heck of a time trying to get there because they're going to be crazy games.
Well, all I'm saying is if there wasn't the possibility of missing the playoffs and not making it, then making it wouldn't be nearly as valuable and as cool as it is. So, yeah, you're right. There is the possibility that they could choke and miss the playoffs and everything. Absolutely. There's always that possibility. That's why making the playoffs is a big deal in the first place, because it's so easy to be able to miss it. So, like, I mean, I think I just said it right there. I don't know what further to elaborate on that, but exactly.
It's going to be so fun.
I'm just excited for the end of the league. I'm excited for the playoffs. Like, this is, I mean, I wonder if we're going to see what happened last year happen, or if we're going to remember last year there was a really similar scenario where the South Carolina Stingrays were on like a 15-17 game heater, right, to end the year. And then they lost in the second round, I think. Something they lost in the second round. It was either the first or the second round, and it was, I think, to the Everblades. So, like, I was like, man, like,
They proved our statement
it
wrong.
was the second. I think it was the second round they lost to the Everblades, because then the Everblades lost to the Lions in the semifinal, and the Lions ended up winning in there. Which good for the Trois Rivières Lions. We have better attendance than them though. So go Bison.
Hey,
Bison have better attendance than the. Hey, that's what I'm saying. The Bison have better attendance than the Kelly Cup winner last year. So give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back, but keep coming to games. But yeah, no, the Mavericks are doing that again. Again, we said they're 25 and 24. Or they're 24-1 in their last 25 games. So, a little good in the last little bit there. And yeah, of course, the Everblades are doing good. Shocking. Comets have been doing amazing. They're the 5th best team in the league, so that's why it's such a big deal for winning them 5-0 at their home barn. They're the 5th best team in the league. I'm telling you, that's the thing with the Bison is just funnily enough, it's kind of Brad Morrison. It's the consistency. They absolutely have the talent and ability to beat the best teams that there is in the league, but they also are inconsistent enough to lose to the worst teams in the league. I think I was talking to someone else about the Bison who said it perfectly, is that the Bison kind of play down to their competition, where if it's the Utah, they'll play at their level, and they might win, but it's gonna be a close game. But they also might play the best team in the league, and they're gonna play them the exact same way, and it's gonna be a close game. So I think you're going to have some benefits from that, especially in like the playoffs, and once it gets into harder games, the way the Bison play, I think, is going to benefit them. But I think it's until we just got to get there. I think the way you play will benefit you in playoffs. We just got to get there. And hopefully the Wolfpack realize that or actually not the Wolfpack, because it wasn't the Wolfpack's issue they called up Karpa and Mack. It was because the Rangers called up multiple of their prospects. And I'm like, just let the NCAA season end soon, and there'll be some signees, and then there'll be a whole influx of players, and people will get sent down more. So
life of ECHL.
Exactly. Gotta love the NCAA season, and yeah, if you're an ECHL fan, you should pay attention to the college hockey season, because once it's over, unrestricted free agents in college hockey normally sign with the pros, especially the pros that, of the country they're living in. So they end up being either NHL, AHL, or ECHL. So keep out open for the end of the NCAA season. But that should be about it for this episode.
Did we do a Rule Corner?
I don't think we did a Rule Corner today, but I didn't really have anything. So we'll have to postpone the Rule Corner for this episode, because I'm not sure. Actually, I have a really quick one.
All right.
And that is perfect, because it just happened in the gold medal game. If you catch someone up high with a high stick, and you are bleeding, afterwards,
key
it becomes
distinction.
a 4 minute instead of just a 2 minute. We learned that when Jack Hughes got his front tooth completely destroyed by Sam Bennett's stick going whack. And then he scored the golden goal with half of his teeth in his mouth. And it's the most hockey guy thing I've ever seen. Not actually half his teeth. It's only like chipped like 2 of them. But still, very, very hockey guy. So
multiple types of penalties.
So yes, be wary when it's a high stick. It can be it's normally a 2 minute, but if there's a high stick, always be careful because if they say it's a 4 minute, that's not like something you really blame the referees for if they call a 4 minute versus a 2 minute because they don't make a decision on that. They just see if there's blood or not, and if there is, then they call 4. If there's not, then they don't. That's kind of just what it is. There's some rules, like I said, like offsides and stuff that's called more frequently depending on the ref or yada yada, but that's one of those rules where there's not much of gray. It's more black and white on that specific one.
Yeah, no judgment.
Yeah, if it's bleeding, 4. If it's not, 2. Pretty simple.
Boom.
And that should be it for the podcast today. Just under an hour, so we definitely had a longer one coming back. We'll try and get the next episode out a little bit quicker than a month, hopefully. Talk about how the Bison do this weekend against tomorrow against the Heartlanders, and then this weekend against the Walleye. So it'll be another good gauge point to see where we are. So you might see us next week. If not, we'll be back soon to recap more of your Bison. So until the next one.